Rain tapped softly against the wide kitchen window of her small Portland house while she stood barefoot on the cold floor, holding a mug of coffee that had already gone. Lukewarm. Her life had become quiet since her divorce 3 years earlier. Quiet in a way that first felt peaceful, but later began to feel empty, and filled evenings with television she barely watched. She had learned how to live alone. But she had never truly learned how to stop feeling lonely. Her phone buzzed on the counter, breaking the calm. She glanced at it without interest until she saw the name on the screen, Daniel Brooks. Her nephew. Daniel had always been special to her. When he was a child, he used to follow her everywhere during family gatherings, asking endless questions and laughing at jokes no one else noticed. Even after growing older and moving away for college, he still called her on birthdays and holidays. Something few relatives remembered to do. She answered quickly. "Hey, Daniel." There was a pause on the other side, longer than normal. "What's?" Another pause followed, heavy enough to make her sit straighter. Daniel was usually relaxed and confident. Today, he sounded unsure. "I need a favor," he finally said. She laughed lightly. "That sounds serious." "It is. At least, for me." Emily felt concern rise. "Tell me." Daniel explained that graduation was coming soon. His parents expected him to move back home to Chicago, find a stable job nearby, and follow a safe path they had already imagined for him. But he didn't want that life. He wanted independence, space to think, and a fresh start somewhere he could decide who he wanted to become. "I feel stuck," he admitted. "Like everyone already planned my future." Emily understood that feeling more than she expected. For years, she had lived according to expectations, to marriage, stability, routine, until her husband suddenly left, saying he needed something different. That moment had forced her to rebuild everything from nothing. "So what does this have to do with me?" she asked gently. Danielle hesitated again. "I was hoping maybe I could stay with you for a while, just until I figure things out." Emily blinked, surprised but not uncomfortable. The idea of someone living in her quiet home felt strange, yet also warm. "You want to move to Portland?" "That's okay," he said quickly. "I trust you more than anyone." Being trusted, being needed, had been a long time since she felt either. "You can stay," she said without overthinking. Really, just before ending the call, he added quietly, "There's another reason I wanted to come." Emily frowned slightly. "What reason?" "I'll tell you when I get there." The line disconnected, leaving her staring at the phone, curious and slightly unsettled. 2 weeks later, she stood at the airport arrival gate watching passengers stream out. When Daniel finally appeared, pulling 2 suitcases behind him, she almost didn't recognize him. The boy she remembered had become a mandler, confident, with calm eyes that seemed older than his age. He spotted her and smiled widely before walking straight into a hug that lasted longer than expected. His arms wrapped around her tightly, as if he had been holding tension for months. "It's good to see you," he said softly. "You too," she replied, laughing gently as she stepped back. "You've changed." "How have you?" he said, assuming he meant she looked older or simply different after years apart. The house no longer felt silent. Music played in the mornings while he cooked breakfast. Conversations filled evenings. He helped rearrange furniture, fixed a broken shelf, and insisted on cooking dinner twice a week despite limited skills. Emily found herself laughing more than she had in years. Daniel asked questions about her work, her past, her interests. Not. He listened carefully, remembering small details she mentioned days earlier. When she spoke, he gave her full attention, something she realized she had missed deeply. One evening after work, she returned home exhausted to find fresh flowers on the kitchen table. "What's this?" she asked. Daniel shrugged casually. "Looked nice. Thought the house needed color." The gesture felt simple but meaningful. Her ex-husband had rarely noticed such things. Days turned into weeks. They developed routines: morning coffee together, shared grocery trips, late-night movies. On the couch, as if life had quietly restarted without her noticing. Yet sometimes she caught Daniel watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. Not in a strange way, just thoughtful, almost emotional. When their eyes met, maybe feeling uncertain about his future, one rainy evening mirrored the day of his call. Halfway through, Daniel muted the television. "Aunt Emily, can I ask you something?" She turned toward him. "Sure. Do you ever regret things you didn't do?" The question surprised her. Everyone regrets something. "I mean big things," he said quietly, "like not choosing happiness when you had the chance." She hesitated before answering. "After my divorce, I wondered if I wasted years trying to make something work that wasn't meant to." Daniel nodded slowly, as if her answer confirmed something important. "I think people stop themselves from loving because they're afraid of judgment," he said. Emily smiled gently. "You sound very philosophical tonight." "I've been thinking a lot," he replied. The room felt warmer suddenly. She noticed how close they were sitting, their shoulders nearly touching. She shifted slightly, but didn't move away completely. "You said there was another reason you came here," she reminded him lightly. "Are you finally going to tell me?" Daniel's expression grew serious, stared at his hands before looking directly at her. "Yes." Her heartbeat quickened without knowing why. "I didn't just come to escape home," he said slowly. "I came because I needed to be honest about something." Emily waited, unsure what to expect. "I didn't know how to say it before," he continued. "And maybe I still don't." She laughed softly, trying to ease his nerves. "Just say it." He took a deep breath. "I think I've been in love with you for a long time." The words froze the air. Emily stared at him, convinced she misunderstood. Her mind searched for another meaning: admiration, gratitude, confusion, but his face held only sincerity. "That's not funny," she said quietly. "I'm not joking." Her pulse raced. She stood up instinctively, needing distance. "Daniel, you're emotional. You just moved. Your life is changing. I know exactly what I'm saying." He interrupted gently but firmly. She walked toward the window, staring at the rain to steady herself. Everything suddenly felt unreal. Memories replayed differently than long conversations. The thoughtful gestures, the way he listened so carefully. "You're my nephew," she said, her voice softer now. "I know," he replied. "That's why I never said anything before." She turned slowly. Kate, his eyes were nervous but calm, as if he had accepted whatever outcome followed. "I didn't come expecting anything," he added. "I just couldn't keep pretending my feelings weren't real." Emily's heart pounded painfully. She felt shock, confusion, and something else she refused to name. For years she had felt invisible, unwanted, emotionally distant from the world. Daniel's words shattered that emptiness in an instant, but they also terrified her. "You should get some rest," she said finally, her voice trembling. He nodded, clearly hurt but respectful. As he walked toward his room, he paused in the hallway. "I'm sorry if this makes things difficult," he said quietly. "I just needed you to know the truth." His door closed softly. Emily remained standing in the living room long after the sound faded. The rain continued outside, steady and endless, matching the storm inside her thoughts. She sat slowly on the couch where they had been moments earlier. The space beside her still felt warm. She replayed his confession again and again, trying to reject it, trying to simplify it. But emotions were rarely simple. What frightened her most wasn't his feelings. It was the realization that somewhere, during those weeks, she had begun to depend on his presence too. His laughter-filled spaces she didn't realize were empty. His attention made her feel seen again. For the first time since her divorce, her heart felt awake, and that truth scared her more than anything else. She stared at the dark window, knowing one thing with certainty: nothing between them would ever be the same again. And whatever happened next would change both of their lives in ways she wasn't ready to face. Emily barely slept after Daniel's confession. The house felt different, as if every wall now held a secret. She lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying his words again and again. She tried to convince herself it was a misunderstanding, a passing emotional moment, but deep down she knew it wasn't. Daniel had spoken with certainty, not confusion. His honesty forced her to confront feelings she had carefully avoided naming. Morning arrived quietly. Pale sunlight slipped through the curtains, and the smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen. Emily hesitated before leaving her bedroom, unsure how to face him. Part of her wanted to pretend nothing had happened, but she understood avoidance would only make things worse. When she entered the kitchen, Daniel stood near the counter pouring coffee into 2 mugs, just like every other morning. His movements were calm, but his eyes revealed nervousness. He glanced at her carefully, waiting for her reaction. "Good morning," he said softly. "Morning," she replied, her voice gentle but serious. They sat across from each other at the table. Silence stretched between them, not angry but heavy, with unspoken thoughts. Emily wrapped her hands around her mug, gathering courage. "We should talk," she finally said. Daniel nodded immediately. "I figured." She took a slow breath. "I want you to know first that I'm not angry." Relief flickered across his face. "But what you said last night, it matters," she continued. "And we can't ignore it." He looked down at the table. "I didn't mean to make things uncomfortable." "You didn't," she said honestly. "You were brave. But feelings don't exist alone. They affect people." Daniel listened quietly, giving her space to speak. Emily searched for the right words. She cared deeply about him, and that made this conversation harder. Rejecting him harshly would hurt him. Encouraging him would hurt both of them. "You came into my life at a time when I felt very alone," she said slowly. "Your presence brought warmth back into this house. I started smiling again because of you." He looked up, surprised by her honesty. "But that doesn't mean everything we feel should become something more," she added gently. Daniel swallowed. "So you don't feel anything?" The question hung between them. Emily hesitated. She chose honesty over comfort. "Feel affection. I feel connection. But love isn't just emotion. It's also responsibility, timing, and understanding consequences." He nodded faintly, already understanding her answer. "You're young," she continued. "Your life is just beginning. You deserve experiences, relationships, freedom without complications." "And you?" he asked quietly. She smiled sadly. "I'm still learning who I am after losing the life I thought I'd have. That doesn't make me the right person for you." Daniel leaned back in his chair, absorbing her words. Pain showed in his eyes, but there was also respect. "I knew this might happen," he admitted. "I just needed to tell you." Emily reached across the table and gently placed her hand over his. The gesture was warm but careful, filled with care rather than romance. "You didn't do anything wrong," she said. "Feelings aren't mistakes. What matters is how we handle them." For the first time since the confession, Daniel smiled slightly. That conversation changed the atmosphere in the house. The tension didn't disappear instantly, but honesty replaced uncertainty. They gave each other space while maintaining kindness. Emily focused on work more intensely, and Daniel spent hours applying for jobs and exploring the city. Days passed. Gradually, their relationship found a new balance. They still shared dinners and conversations, but boundaries became clearer. The closeness turned calmer, more grounded. Emily noticed Daniel growing stronger emotionally, as if releasing his secret allowed him to breathe again. One evening, they cooked dinner together. Music played softly while they chopped vegetables side by side. Daniel laughed at one of her jokes, and for the first time since everything happened, the laughter felt natural again. "I was scared you'd ask me to leave," he admitted suddenly. Emily looked at him, surprised. "Why would I do that?" "Because I crossed a line." She shook her head. "You told the truth. That's not crossing a line. It's trusting someone. He nodded thoughtfully. As weeks passed, Daniel began attending interviews. Each opportunity brought new excitement. Emily encouraged him, helping him choose outfits and practice conversations. Watching him prepare for his future filled her with pride mixed with quiet sadness. She realized he would eventually leave, and the house would return to silence. One afternoon, Daniel came home with bright eyes. "I got an offer," he announced. Emily smiled immediately. "That's amazing. Where?" "Denver." The word lingered between them, far enough to mean real change. She hugged him warmly. "I'm proud of you." He held the hug a little longer before stepping back. "I wouldn't have had the courage without coming here." The following weeks moved quickly, packing boxes, signing documents, planning the move. Their conversations became lighter, focused on future plans rather than past emotions. One evening near his departure, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. The sky glowed orange and pink, casting long shadows across the quiet street. "I've been thinking," Daniel said, "about what I felt." Emily listened silently. "I don't regret telling you," he continued, "but I understand now that maybe what I felt wasn't just romantic love. Maybe it was admiration, comfort, feeling safe." She smiled softly. "Sometimes feelings arrive wearing the wrong name." He laughed quietly. "That sounds like something you'd say." They sat peacefully, the earlier tension replaced by understanding. "You helped me see what real connection looks like," he added. "Now I know what I want in a relationship." Emily felt warmth spread through her chest, instead of guilt. She felt relief knowing the experience had helped him grow rather than break him. The morning he left arrived too soon. Suitcases stood by the door just as they had weeks earlier, but everything felt different now. Growth had replaced uncertainty. They hugged tightly before he stepped outside. "Thank you for everything," he said. "You're always welcome here," she replied. He smiled. "You've changed my life." "You've changed mine too," she answered. Honestly, as his car disappeared down the street, Emily stood at the doorway longer than necessary. The silence returned slowly, but this time it didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. Weeks passed. Emily focused on herself again, redecorating the house, reconnecting with friends, accepting invitations she once declined. Daniel called often, sharing stories about his new job and city. One snowy evening, her phone buzzed with a message. A photo appeared on the screen. Daniel standing beside a young woman, both smiling widely under falling snowflakes. "Met someone special," the message read. "I think you were right." Emily smiled warmly, feeling genuine happiness instead of jealousy or regret. She realized then what Daniel's presence had truly given her. He hadn't come into her life to become her partner, came to remind her she was still capable of connection, still worthy of affection, still alive emotionally after heartbreak. That realization changed how she saw herself. She began opening her heart again, not rushing into love, but allowing possibility. She joined social gatherings, accepted dinner invitations, and slowly rebuilt confidence she thought she had lost forever. Months later, while rearranging her living room, she noticed how different the house felt. Not because someone lived there, but because she no longer felt alone inside herself. Sometimes love arrives not to stay, but to heal. Daniel's confession had shaken her world, forced honesty, and awakened emotions she had buried after divorce. Choosing boundaries had been painful, yet it allowed both of them to grow without regret. Emily understood something important at last. Love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it is about guiding someone forward, even when letting go hurts. She stood by the window one evening watching rain fall again, just like the day everything began. But now she felt calm, hopeful. The unbelievable thing she had done was not rejecting love or accepting it. It was choosing wisdom over loneliness, kindness over confusion, and courage over comfort. And because of that choice, Two lives moved forward, toward happiness, separate, healthier, and ready for the futures waiting ahead.